cameras out, so I will be the PA system this evening. I don't know why, but it seems like every time I go to one of these prepper events, there's some kind of catastrophic storm somewhere, so I apologize. My fault. My name is Bear from the internet, and I was invited here by Jason and Shelley from Kentucky Sustainable Living to talk to y'all about Kaleb House this evening. I would assume you know what Kaleb House is. Maybe, maybe not. However, since some of us don't, I made a couple of notes on my Palm Pilot 1.0 here. I'm going to tell you who we are, where we came from, what we do, why we do it, where we're going, and how you can assist if the spirit moves you. Cool? Awesome. So, Kaleb House, who are we? We are a 501c3 charitable organization, registered nationally. We do counter-trafficking in the United States of America. Not OCONUS, not outside the United States of America. We do counter-trafficking in the United States of America because basically no one else does it. What they do is fundraise here in the United States of America and then go to places like Haiti, Central America, South America, Southeast Asia, and do counter-trafficking work there. And it's not that the women and children, the widows and the orphans in those places don't need help. They do. They absolutely need help. But nobody does anything about counter-trafficking here, regardless of whether or not Angel Studios produced a movie that's made up about the things that you may or may not have done. Kaleb House is staffed almost entirely by volunteers, many of which are SOF veterans, Special Operations Forces. We have a lot of partner agencies and organizations that we work with, not just for the rescue of children, but also for the restoration, which is the critical need in counter-trafficking. Rescue is good, but there's no place to take children after they've been rescued. Approximately 17,000 children per month are recovered. There are 420 beds sanctioned by the Department of Homeland Security in the United States for recovery. That's a BS number because only 80 of those beds are operable, which means there's no place for the 17,000 kids per month to go. They oftentimes become property of the state, which is a problem because in many cases they were trafficked from the state in the first place. The recidivism rate is 78% for a child that has been trafficked once to be trafficked again. The behaviors that are perpetuated upon these children become learned behaviors which they then act out on others. It's a generational curse. It's a learned behavior. One offender, statistically, is responsible for 82 victims. Not 82 instances of offense, 82 victims. So it's an exponential growth in the offense. So what we do is we build restoration facilities, which the best way I can paint this picture for you are communities that are semi-off-grid, out in the woods, staffed by house parents that love the kids in their care, where we take broken people and put them back together again. The means and methods with which we do that, I can only describe to you vaguely, but we are working with the Attorney General's office in order to be able to codify what we do to make that the state of Oklahoma and national standard for restorative care, because there isn't one. The Department of Homeland Security has 5,000 pages of regulation related to counter-trafficking. They also have an average tenure for somebody in the position of counter-trafficking in DHS of 8 months. So the turnover is so great that there are no subject matter experts inside of DHS to interpret the 5,000 pages of legalese to be able to articulate the standard for somebody like me to adhere to. Which is why it's cool to be working with the AG's office, although they've been in the news a lot here lately, but there are still, believe it or not, a handful of good people in government. working with the AG's office in order to be able to develop an actual standard that people that want to help can adhere to. That's what we do. We do rescue, but more importantly, we do restoration. Somebody has got to put kids back together again. We came about, I've got two 501c3s, the first of which is called Grindstone Ministries, which is a pro bono disaster relief organization that is currently on its 51st, 52nd deployment in the last 6 years down in the Kerrville, Texas area, for the catastrophic flooding in Texas. Grindstone is staffed 98% by volunteers, and we're really bad at sitting still. We like to do stuff. Our love language is diesel fuel and chainsaws. And so we were in between deployments a few years ago. We found a restoration facility that needed help. They came to me and they said, Bear, in one of our buildings, the floor on one side of one room in one of our buildings is a little spongy. Can you take a look at it? Sure. We got nothing else going on. Why not? Anybody here in construction? Show of hands. Are you familiar with the term scope creep? Yep. So, I don't know, 200 square foot of flooring turned into 6 weeks full-blown deployment at this place, touching every part of the facility. From the water pipe in and the sewer out to the power in and the roofs and the HVAC and all of it. And it was a beautiful experience because the Father was all the way in it. Just as a quick example, the AC condenser unit outside one of these buildings that's older than I am would not work because it had a bad capacitor in it. And I didn't have one of those, and nobody else did. So we just threw up a quick prayer to Dad and said, hey, can we have one of these, please? We get done praying, and we're in the middle of nowhere. And this little red Nissan V2000 pickup truck is bumping down the road, stops, backs up, and pulls up straight at us. And a little crotchety old man gets out of the truck and says, what are you boys doing? We're trying to fix this AC condenser. What's wrong with it? It needs a capacitor. He goes, let me see it. I hand it to him. He walks to the back of the truck, pulls one out, hands it to me and says, there you go. Hops in the truck and drives away. And it was like that for 6 weeks straight. So, second last day there, I'm walking outside the building that we were all sleeping in, going to the chow hall. It's early in the morning. It's a cool, clear day. And I'm looking up at the little puffy clouds in the sky, thanking the Creator of the universe for this opportunity. Like, this is amazing. He's like, yeah. I was like, this is so important. He goes, yeah. So this is a really important thing that we're doing. I'm hyping myself up. And he's egging me on with, yeah. I said, there needs to be more of these. And he said, yeah. And you're going to build them. Record stops. And now I'm standing in the middle of this green space arguing with the Creator of the universe because I know nothing about counter-trafficking. Nothing. And so I'm telling him, Dad, I'm not your guy. I don't know how to do this. His exact words to me were, you build the buildings, I'll handle the rest. Okay. Now I have an option. Only 2 options here, decision point. I can be obedient or I can be disobedient. I chose obedience, which does not make me special, does not make me a hero. There's not a single person in this room that can't make that same decision in whatever capacity you are called in. So I guess that's the first lesson of the evening. I'm not special. Don't put me up on a pedestal. Because every one of you is capable of at least as much as what I have done. Because I haven't done it. The Father has. So I said, yes, we'll build this. We wrap up that deployment. I'm in a board meeting shortly thereafter, and I'm trying to explain to my board of directors for Grindstone, hey, I know we said no new projects, but we're going to need a new website, some more insurance, a new 501c3 filing, a new board of directors, a new executive director. And they're like, hey, hold on. What are we doing? So we're getting into the counter-trafficking space. And they said, why? Everybody's in the counter-trafficking space. Yup. And most of them are liars and grifters that are earning an income for themselves off of the backs of serially raped children. And that's a fact. I, just so we're on the same page, do not receive any compensation from Kaleb House whatsoever, nor will I. And that is in our founding documents. It's not about an income for me. I also own companies I'm taking care of on the for-profit side. If you're going to give, give. If you're going to earn, earn. And don't let those two things mess each other up. So we found a Kaleb House. Kaleb House is named after Caleb in the Bible, who was Joshua's homie. One of only two guys that gave a good report when they went in to spy out the Promised Land. And one of only two men of 603,550 of the original generation that went into the wilderness that made it into the Promised Land. If you've read the book of Joshua, when they go into the Promised Land, everybody thinks that if God has ordained it, it will be easy. What they missed was it was 5 years of warfare in Canaan to take the Promised Land. And God had ordained it. And so as the fighting is winding down, there's a mountain called Hebron. And Joshua and Caleb are having a little sidebar conversation, and Caleb says, I want that mountain. And Joshua says, New Living Bear Translation, homie, you're really old. And there's not one, not two, there's three giants, the sons of Anak, the Anakim, are up there. And Caleb says to Joshua, I'm as good today as I was the day that Moses tapped me on the shoulder and said, go spy out the Promised Land. It was 45 years ago. And Caleb goes up the mountain and slaughters the ever-loving crap out of not one, not two, but three giants. Takes Hebron. Hebron later becomes land granted to a dude named Obed-Edom, which is where the ark lands, which becomes the threshing floor, which becomes the Temple Mount, which is where Messiah was crucified. So it all connects. If Caleb didn't have the confidence in his relationship with the Most High to go up the mountain and slaughter giants, none of us would be sitting here right now. And so that's what Kaleb House does. We slaughter giants in the Promised Land. This mission is huge. As I mentioned, most of the organizations that are involved in counter-trafficking pay lip service to it. 92% of all funds raised for counter-trafficking are spent on awareness. 92% for Instagram posts, Facebook campaigns, YouTube videos, speaking events. I'm pretty sure we are all aware that trafficking exists and that it's bad. It is not my intent to worry about public perception when it comes to trafficking. It is my intent to end trafficking to the best of my ability. It's a lofty goal, but we're working towards it. And so, after we found Kaleb House, knowing that we were going to focus on restoration because that's the critical need. 17,000 kids a month recovered, 420 beds in the entire country to restore them, 78% recidivism rate. How do we fix those numbers? We got involved in restoration. We got involved in restoration because we unwillingly got involved in recovery. We ran our first mission off of a phone call because there were 9 people who were being exploited that needed to get out, and our window of opportunity to get them out was a 12-hour window. And so one of my guys called me and said, hey boss, I need help. I said, where are you? And he told me, and it was nowhere close to my house. I said, what do you need? He said, I need everything. Cool. I sent some text messages out on my phone. Within 15 minutes, my truck was filled with a bunch of badass operators, and we moved. And we showed up to a location under the cover of darkness, got 9 people out, put them in a dump trailer with stuff on top of it. So it just looked like a dump trailer full of random crap. sped out of there, went to a safe site, got blown at that safe site, bugged out to another safe site, got blown at that safe site. The battle was on. And about a week later, landed at a long-term safe site and began the process of restoration for those 9 individuals, knowing nothing about rescue. Nothing. Then we started building Kaleb House, because what I was told was you build the buildings, I'll handle the rest. And so what Kaleb House is we operate in use a house parents model. Each house can fit 6 to 10 individuals, depending on the house and the circumstances around that individual. We work predominantly with widows and orphans, accompanied minors. When you think of trafficking, most people think of little brown kids in cages in the back of a semi or in a basement somewhere. And that happens, but that is not even kind of the majority of what happens. It's mostly middle to upper class white men between 25 and 55 years old that start by exploiting their own family. Then they share that content that they create with other people like them via the dark web or in person, which now you have a network developing. And then at some point they get found out, which usually leads to increased rate of assault and or homicide. That's one level. That's the most basic level. The next level up is organized crime level, cartel level, where people are treated as product, just like a bag of heroin. One of the most sickening quotes I've ever heard is, "Children are the new heroin," because I can sell a bag of heroin one time, but I can sell a 5-year-old 10 times a day for 10 years before they're used up. Yeah. And that operates at the regional level, and then there's the nation-state/global level, where we have been warned by people within our own government to shut it down. You're getting too close, you need to stop. You're asking all the wrong questions. To which we have said, I know there's children in the room, but to which we have said, kiss my hairy white ass. We're not stopping. Which as a result, has made me wildly unpopular with quite a few different people. And I don't care. Because we're all going to die sooner or later. And while I'm in no hurry, I have a beautiful wife and 4 awesome kids, and really awesome friends. We're all going to die anyway. Cool. I would rather this life meant something. So, our restoration program has no timeline. What I mean by that is it doesn't run for 12 months or 18 months or 24 months, because I'm not going to tell a 3-year-old they've got a year to get their poop in a group and then kick them out again. So our kids are our kids. And when they graduate from our program, just like when your children grow up and leave your house, they're still your kids. And you still want to talk to them on the phone and hope that they call you whenever they have problems, and make sure they're on the right career path and give them life advice and all of that. And so it's a lifelong relationship because these are children. And my job is to build the buildings. And the Father has absolutely blessed us by sending us all the right people at the right time. He has never given us what we wanted, but He's always given us what we needed when we needed it. So, He's also, being perfectly frank with you, allowed us to make a lot of mistakes in a short period of time. And there's so much mercy and grace in the mistakes He's allowed us to make that they were big enough and painful enough to learn from, but not so big that they destroyed us. It's probably lesson number 2 for you all in all of this. Like I said, when we started, I knew nothing about counter-trafficking. And my impression was, there are professionals that handle this. There's not. There's one other group that we have become aware of, and have worked with in the last 5 years that I could recommend. That group's called Sentinel Foundation. for those who would want to know. Sentinel Foundation. Those are good people, and they actually do stuff. Everybody else, any other organization you can think of, I've met them, I've talked to them, we've checked each other's fruits, that's biblical, Messiah tells us to do that. There's one, other than Kaleb House, I can recommend. And that's not because we're cool, it's because everybody else is just faking it. And so I was deluded into thinking that this problem was being handled, and it's not. So, I think I've kind of touched on why we do this. We're biblically commanded to forsake not the widow and the orphan. Messiah tells us to love our neighbor as ourselves. A lot of times, it's weird because I'm an ordained pastor now, which I wouldn't ever thought was part of my life path. But I am. I still say bad words. And I'm frankly not even kind of working on it. I got more important stuff to do. I still like a little bit of whiskey on occasion. Not a lot. Drinking's okay, drunkenness is not. But, I don't know. We're supposed to love people. We're supposed to help people who can't help themselves. And a lot of people have asked me, well, who's my neighbor? I'm supposed to love my neighbor. And the answer to that is, once we start quantifying who my neighbor is, it means we're looking for reasons why we don't have to love someone. And that's pretty convicting if you stop and think about it. Now, in the same breath, I believe in the age of accountability. One of the things that I'm known for saying is we do bad stuff to bad people, and we do. Because at some point, there are people who had bad stuff done to them, usually as a child, who now knowingly are doing it to somebody else. So there's a huge element of generational curses to what we do. And a lot of people will take that with a spiritual connotation. And there is a spiritual connotation to it, but it's manifested in the physical because we're dealing with learned behaviors. We have had to retrain what playtime looks like with many a child because of what they were taught playtime is. Yeah, exactly what that means. Again, there's kids in the room, so I'm not trying to make anybody too uncomfortable. But we do this because it's the right thing to do and somebody's got to do it. And like I said, I'm going to die sooner or later anyway. And it's required of me. If I don't do this, when I stand in judgment in front of my Creator, I'll be held accountable for it. Simple as that. Every one of you has something like that in your life as well. What it is, I don't know. And I would submit, I don't think any other person knows either. If you don't know what it is, you need to ask Dad. And you'll be presented with the same opportunity to be obedient or disobedient that I was. And if you listen, it won't be easy. 5 years of warfare in the promised land, but it will be good. If you don't listen, Dad will whip your ass. Ask me how I know. Moving on. Where are we going from here? We are building our first restoration facility right now. Started as a raw piece of land. When I got there, there was a clearing no larger than the width of this area that I'm standing in right here that didn't have trees and scrub brush on it, and it was relatively flat. I wanted a D8 high track. That's a bulldozer. The father gave me a D4. Okay, better than a shovel. I wanted a Cat, 345 track hoe. He gave me a 308. Better than a shovel. So we started digging dirt and moving and building roads. Our security building is up. Our barn/warehouse is up. The first care house is up. We are building the housing for the on-site care director now. And the goal is to build 10 houses on that property that will allow 60 children to be restored at any one time. We also currently maintain 3 different safe sites safe houses for both short-term and long-term care, where we provide victim services, advocacy. That's a huge thing. We've gotten laws changed in 4 states already, both concerning what's called ex parte, the ability for a victim to testify, to provide their testimony without being in the same room as their offender. That's a really big deal, because kids make bad witnesses anyway, and they make terrible witnesses when the person who has broken them is sitting across the room from them. So we've been able to change the laws in 4 states where we can take a written testimony, a certified trauma therapist can take a written testimony from this child and have that presented into evidence, which leads to part 2, getting meaningful conviction. Recently, there was an individual in California that we became aware of. We did what we do, and based upon witness testimony and DNA evidence, we were able to get a conviction. They got the maximum sentencing in California, which is 365 days. Disgusting. I'm a whole Bible believer, and Dad says I get to hit that person with a rock, and I really want to. However, on multiple occasions where I could have, he has not allowed me to. I think the reason for that, you know how frustrating it is to watch an absolutely scumbag POS that you know beyond a shadow of a doubt is hurting people through a rifle scope? And you got 175 grain Sierra Max King M118 LR, chambered, 3.5 pounds of pressure on the trigger, and his problem goes away? But so do I. And then this thing dies. And the good works end. So, not only changing what witness testimony looks like on the victim services side, but also meaningful conviction. We run a team of what we call our white-collar professionals, which are trauma therapists, doctors, chiropractors, anybody who's got a degree with a fancy piece of paper up on the wall, that when our kids need something, they come to us, and they help us, and that's awesome. We also run teams of blue-collar professionals, my kind of people, plumbers, electricians, HVAC, dirt work, paving, whatever, that want to donate their time to come out and help. We're making in-kind donations. We have one gentleman right now that has committed all of the electrical materials for the first restoration facility. All of it. Every wire, every plug, everything from the power line in for 10 houses in all the buildings, which is awesome. We have another individual who said, you will never buy an appliance in your life. He owns an appliance store. And just, hey, we're building another house, we need a refrigerator. He's like, cool, tell me what you need. And it just shows up. I have another individual who runs a paint store. Like, you cannot buy paint. You just tell me what paint you need. Which is, I guess, part of the Father saying, you build the houses, I'll handle the rest. So, we also have field teams. I have a field team in a different state right now that hopped on a plane last night to go somewhere and go pull people out of a bad situation. And so, like I said, we operate CONUS, Continental United States, because practically no one else does. And the reason they don't, and I've asked many, many people this, including names that you're familiar with, why? The answer is always the same. Well, it's just really hard to operate in the United States. It's so much easier to operate in Asia. We can do whatever we want in Asia. So because it's hard, we're not going to do it here. That is the weakest response I've ever heard to anything. It's hard. So basically what you're saying is, I don't want to. So, we're building Facility 1 now. The long-term vision. When we get done with the first facility, we're going to do a big, what's called an AAR, after-action report, with all the constituents, everybody who was involved. We play a little game called Sustain and Improve. What worked great, what sucked. Stuff that worked great, we're going to do more of that. Stuff that sucked, we're going to do less of that. And then all those lessons learned get folded into Facility 2, and Facility 9, Facility 23, etc., etc. We're going to keep doing this until we don't have to do it anymore, and or I'm dead. And my goal is, and it has already, that this organization outgrows me. That when I'm dead, the mission doesn't stop. So that's the long-term strategic vision there. Now I'll tell you a real quick story as to why that's important. That first extract we did, we're finally in a location where we can breathe. If you were in class with me yesterday, we talked about hot zones, warm zones, and cool zones. We've gone from a hot zone to a warm zone. But I'm still standing there in a plate carrier holding a rifle. I'm on security and I'm watching this tree line and this road that's out here. I got 3 of the kids that we pulled out, 12, 13, 14, sitting on a stone fence behind me. And they're just intently watching me. You know that feeling when eyeballs are on you? Well, I've got 3 pairs of eyeballs burning a hole in my back. I could feel it through level 4 plates. So I turn around and I look at them and I said, "What's up? How can I help you?" And 2 of them wouldn't speak, couldn't speak, but the one, young lady, strong kid, she says, "We want to know what we need to be when we grow up to do what you do." I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "Do we have to become cops? Do we go into the military? Should I become a firefighter? Like, what's the career path to end up at what you just did for us? How do we do that?" I'm like, "Sweetheart, whatever you want to do, you want to learn to fly fighter jets? I know a guy. You want to be a fireman, firewoman? I know somebody. You want to join special forces? I know somebody. You want to be a school teacher? We have connections. What do you want to do?" But we don't know. We want to do whatever we have to do to be able to do this. And I said, "Why?" There was a young man sitting there who hadn't said a word. Yeah, we're going on a week. This kid hadn't said a word. He said, "Because I've still got friends back there and we need to go back and get them." And it broke my heart. But I realized there's not a better human being on planet Earth than those kids to be able to deal with this. Because they're the actual subject matter experts. They actually know what's happening. They actually understand the patterns of behavior. They understand the manipulation and the exploitation and the trauma and the multiple personality disorder and the DID. They understand all of that because they've lived it. And it really helped us codify what our mission is. I want to take that thing that could be a stumbling block for each individual person and turn it into a story of overcoming for them so that I can weaponize them for good. Because each one of those kids that we can put back together again, statistically, it's 82 more kids that I don't have to put back together again. And they're going to be even better at it than I am. So that's what we do, who we are, and how we do it. How can you assist? I am terrible at shilling, regardless of what the haters on the internet say. I'm not going to tell you to donate. I'm not going to tell you to do anything unless the Spirit moves you to do. Because I don't want to come into agreement with anyone that I'm not supposed to be in agreement with. Because the only reason we've made it as far as we have has been because of the Father. It's as simple as that. We have a website. It's Kaleb with the K, kalebhouse.org. You can go there. You can learn more about us. You can read our 990s, which are the tax filings that a nonprofit has to put out every year, so you can see how we spend our money, that we're not full of crap, we don't have a bunch of expenses that we shouldn't have. We have a line item in our budget called hood rat shit. Let me explain what that means. That is field operations, because there's no other way to quantify what we do other than that. So if you see that, that's what that's about. We also need prayer. We do dangerous things regularly, and it's a calculated risk that every man and every woman on our teams takes every time they walk out the door. And they are putting their relationship with their wife and their children on the line. so they can go do something for somebody they've never met before. The construction team needs prayers. The victim services teams need prayers. The board needs prayers. We are forced to make very difficult decisions pretty much daily. So keep us covered in prayer. If you want to come do cool stuff with us, visit the website, kalebhouse.org. There is a process. You cannot just walk onto the property. You cannot just walk into our lives, because we have caught 4 people trying to volunteer for us. Because bad people seek access and placement to hurt children, because 78% likely that hurt child is going to be trafficked twice, not once. And so once a kid has already been broken, I hate to use this analogy, but it's kind of like a horse. It's much easier to ride a horse that's been broken. So there's a process to come be a part of what we do, and that's done to protect the kids and protect our operators. If you're interested in that, go to kalebhouse.org. And I will say this, I'll end with this. Whether I want to be or not, I'm the face of this thing. And I receive a ton of borrowed credit from y'all. Bear, thank you so much for doing what you do at Kaleb House. Please don't thank me. There are dozens of other people that are not standing here talking, that are actually doing this very moment. That you will never know their names. You can't. You won't know what they look like. You won't know what they do. They don't want you to know. They don't want to be on camera. They can't be on camera because of the nature of the work that they do. They'll never make a documentary about us. I'll never be on Netflix. Thank those people. You pray over Kaleb House, pray over those people. I'm just the guy that gets the camera pointed at him, because I was the guy that had the YouTube channel when this whole thing started. I was already blown. People recognize me at the gas pump. It's weird. It makes it really difficult to operate. It's like, you're Bear from the internet. What are you doing here? Well, it's 3 a.m. and I'm wearing knots. What do you think I'm doing? Why are you up right now? So, while I appreciate the thanks, I appreciate the sentiment, it's not me, y'all. There's a whole team of people, from the board on down to the volunteers at site, who are just happy to spend their day sorting lumber, that make this thing happen. I just get to be the face of it. So with that, thanks for coming. I'm gonna pray. What are we praying about?
Praying that everything's gonna go smooth. I mean,
Well, what is that? Oh my God.
we've already had a hurdle, we've not got little power, so.
You know, one of my favorite quotes is from Mother Teresa. We, the willing, have done so much with so little for so long that we can now do anything with nothing. Love that. Willing. The willing part is what matters. That's the whole parable of the 5 loaves and the 2 fish. When Messiah feeds the 5,000 and then the 4,000, and even then his apostles are like, what is happening right now? Are you the guy? Like, how many times do I have to do this before you realize I'm the guy? The whole point of that parable, I love what Messiah does. He tells everybody, sit down, crisscross applesauce, put your butts on the dirt, okay? And then he gives thanks to the Most High. Father, thank you for this, which is clearly not enough to do what we need to do. Thank you for this. And then he starts to serve. And the whole moral of that parable is, if you just start, give thanks for what you've got and start, you'll have more left over at the end of it than what you started with. And a lot of us are sitting on the bench not doing because we have decided we don't have enough to start with. And you're blaspheming the creator of the universe when you do that, because he has a demonstrated history of making things appear once you start with the appropriate heart condition. It's not about how much bread and fish you have right now, because in the doing of, you'll have more than you need. You'll have more leftovers than what you started with. And now I guess I should pray, huh? Father Yahweh, Father, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to come here today and to speak. Father, thank you for every single person within the sound of my voice. Father, I pray that you would pour your Spirit out here, your Holy Spirit, your Ruach HaKodesh for conviction, that the people within the sound of my voice, Father, would be led in the direction that you need them to go. That we wouldn't count the loaves and the fishes, that we would just start. That you would guide our hands and our hearts and our minds as we endeavor to do work on your behalf. You would reveal our purpose to us, the reason we were fearfully and wonderfully made in your image. Father, that you prosper us and bless us and grow us and teach us to walk better and closer to the example that you've given us in Messiah. Father, I pray that your will would be done here tonight, whatever that might be. I thank you for the storm that the power is out because it's your will, and I don't understand why, but it is, and we're good with it. I thank you that Dudley had lamps in his bag because he's Dudley. I thank you that we're at a prepper convention and there's no shortage of flashlights. Father, you're awesome. You are sovereign over all things, and in all humility we love you and we praise you in Yeshua's name. Amen.